listening to Bring Me the Axe. I'm Bryan White, one half of this morbid equation, and I'm joined by my co-host and actual brother, Dave White. Dave, how you doing?
Thank you for asking. I am doing okay. I've been trying to decorate my apartment for Halloween, and I've been running into some trouble because everything I see, I think to myself, well, I'd put that on a shelf and I'd just leave it there for the rest of the year. Like I bought this really great, very campy bust of Frankenstein's monster, and his eyes light up.
Oh, sweet.
And I got it at one of the Michael's Craft Store, fine establishment. And I put it on the shelf, and I thought, I'm just going to leave that there. It looks great.
Yeah. I'm of a mind. Like the thing is like it's always Halloween for me. So I would do the same thing. Like I did the same a couple of years ago. Went to Michael's. They've got some pretty cool stuff, and I basically just bought shit that I put on my desk to kind of, have like skulls and shit laying around because I'd be like that.
I think what that says about me is that I have the taste of a child.
Yeah. No, I get it, and that's all right.
Yeah, it's my fucking house.
Just do what you want. Do whatever you want. Yeah. No, I get you because I was killing time the other day. I had I feel like about an hour to kill, and I went to Spirit Halloween and just walked around taking it all in. And I was like, I'm gonna buy that. I'm gonna get that Killer Clown's gun. I'm gonna get the Freddy Krueger glove. I'm gonna get the this and this, and then I left with a Camp Crystal Lake coffee mug.
I mean, that's reasonable though.
That place just gets me though. So we practically grew up in neighborhood video stores, and the steady diet of utter garbage that those shops provided us with continues unabated to this day. There's no one else I enjoy chopping it up with more about trashy movies than Dave. Just before we get into it, here's a little housekeeping. If you want to keep up with us between episodes, you can find us on socials. My Instagram mostly. I'd say that's the one that I'm using most. We're having a lot of fun. You can catch us at Bring Me the Axe. Bring Me the Axe Pod, I believe, is where I'm at, and Dave's at That Queer Wolf, and we're having a good time. So you can join us there. Follow us. We want to really kind of bulk up.
Yeah, we're doing a thing in October.
Ooh, yes, we are. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and you're gonna miss it if you're not subscribed.
Yeah, you got to subscribe to find out what the thing is.
Yes, I want to leave them in suspense. We've also got a sweet website now at bringmetheaxe.com. You can listen to all our past shows there, read the transcripts. You can also contact us directly at bringmetheaxepod@gmail.com with any questions, comments, or suggestions. Do let us know if there's a movie that you love and would like to hear us give it the business. And lastly, if you like what you hear, you can subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You'll be doing us a favor by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You can also do it on Spotify now, too. We would appreciate it if you did that because it does help us out. It raises the visibility and kind of, makes us more likely to be recommended to people who are also into horror movies. So get on it.
Yeah, it's called gaming the system.
Yeah, that's right, man.
That's how you get by.
You got to let them know you're out there. So just wanted to get all that out of the way at the top of the show. So we're going to give you a little taste of what's coming next. So
speaking of trashy garbage.
We are going to disagree on this one. Here's a taste.
We're
here to investigate a patient that killed 3 innocent teenagers on a Halloween in 1978. He was shot by his own psychiatrist and taken into custody that night, and has spent the last 40 years in captivity. Hello, Michael. I have something you might like to see.
Everyone in my family turns into a nutcase this time of year. Yeah, I mean, your grandmother is Laurie Strode. She was almost murdered.
Wasn't it her brother who murdered all those babysitters?
No, it was not her brother. That's something that people made up.
Do you know that I pray every night that he would escape?
What the hell did you do that for?
So I can kill him.
Dad, look out!
The
What bus crash?
Michael escaped.
Excuse me, somebody's in here.
Hello?
He's waited for this night. He's waited for me. I've waited for him. Get out of the room! Get inside! You don't believe in the boogeyman? He's here! Michael! You should.
Can you close the closet door?
There it is. It's Halloween 2018. So you're not a fan.
I wanted to like this. Well, first of all, let me say, if ever there was a movie made by straight white dudes, it is this movie. That becomes more evident in the ones that follow. I wanted to enjoy it, and I just don't. It feels like they don't really know. Like they're sort of making a remake, but they didn't want to make a remake, and so they're kind of stuck somewhere in between. So what it feels like is a kind of reimagining that is just constantly referencing the other movies, like to the point that it's tiresome.
Because I'm pretty charitable on this one. I don't think it's great. I think it's good.
This is the only one I've made it through completely. I made it through half of the one after this and was like, nah, fuck this movie. And then the last one sounds like absolute garbage.
I take a sort of, I liked the last one. I think the second one is really silly.
It's fucking ridiculous.
But, this is that last movie. I think most people really, really dislike it. And I think that I was able to get through it because I think I watched a different movie than most people did. Because where this movie ends, the sequels kind of pick up. And it becomes less about Laurie and Michael and sort of more about the kind of weird effect that Haddonfield has on the people there and how it's sort of a place that seems to create monsters.
I think that's where they go wrong. I think that's the idea that they're really doing a thing in this, like there's social commentary in this is like, it is so fucking ham-fisted and absurd that it's hard to take any of it seriously.
Oh, I don't see any social commentary in this movie.
Oh, you do. When this movie came out, they sold this basically as like it was Halloween for the Me Too movement. Like it was supposed to be this, Halloween, the feminist version. It's like this is like the least feminist thing I can imagine.
Oh, well, I mean, if they did that, if they did that, it probably had something to do with the fact that the Weinstein Company had control of this.
That might have been part of it.
And they were trying to put a little distance between them. I remember none of that.
It's strong, it's these strong female characters, and I'm watching it thinking, are they? I mean, you make one of them look like a lunatic.
Well, I don't remember any of that because also at the same time I was extremely skeptical of this movie when it came out, and I only saw it just this year for the first time.
I saw it like last year, I think.
Because
it was like during the pandemic I watched it because I had seen literally everything else.
Yeah, like as far as Halloween goes, like the first one is one of my surprising to no one. The first one's like one of my favorite movies of all time.
It's one of the greatest horror movies ever made.
It's a perfect movie. We're going to talk about it, but the sequels, I think the sequels I saw first, and for a really long time, they put me off to Halloween as a brand because they're so bad. And I understand that they've got their fans, but I don't understand those people at all. Like I can't understand a single person who watched Halloween 5 or H2O or Resurrection and is just like,
H2O is actually a pretty good one.
Like,
Resurrection is absolutely awful. It is worth watching for different reasons. But I think here's the problem: is what you're saying is the problem with this movie is that the first one is a thoroughly solid movie. Like, I mean, I don't know if I'd call it perfect, but I think it's really fucking good.
It's really
one of my favorite movies. And it's a very serious, it's a very simple premise. And I don't want to get too much into it because we're not talking about that movie, but the whole point of Halloween, and this gets lost now in this kind of post-Final Girl, post-Men, Women, Chainsaws conversations. The whole point of Halloween was the idea that this kind of nameless, faceless evil could show up anywhere for no reason and kill you for no reason. And there is very little you can do to stop it.
Yeah.
This kind of thing. And it all comes out of his having grown up in Kentucky and witnessing like virulent racism that he just could not fathom. And so this is a very simple premise. It's something that resonates today just as much as it did in the 70s because it is a basic fear that you have of like the outside world. This movie seems to be wanting to take that, but then build out a story and give it all this context. And when you do that, you undermine the original premise, the thing that makes the movie relatable, the thing that makes it so interesting and so good. The other direction they could have gone with it, which they tried not to, because I get the feeling they're trying to do like a kind of a prestige horror thing here. You could have leaned into the other side of horror, which is the kind of sillier, campier parts of it. The reason why people like 4, 5, 6, H2O, because they're goofy, dumb horror movies. They're dumb teen movies. There's nothing really serious about them. There's not a lot of stakes because you don't really like anybody. They don't go in either direction with it. I think they think they're going in the first direction, but you've sort of ruined the first direction, and I'm kind of left with nothing.
Because I like the premise because this is probably, and as far as I know, this is the only movie that sort of takes the whole Final Girl concept and kind of extrapolates it out to its logical conclusion. Because like there are movies where the Final Girl comes back, like the Screams do this, but like every movie following the first one in which like a massacre happens and like there's a sole survivor who goes through hell, in the sequel they come back and it's like maybe they have nightmares or something like that. But like this is probably a much more reasonable look at somebody who's basically been looking over their shoulder their whole life.
I think it's a shallow look at it though, because it's like they're sitting around going, "Hey, I bet that would make someone real crazy, right?" And the other one's like, "Yeah, of course it would. Hey, that's a great premise." And that's about as far as it goes. Like that what was that Final Girl Support Club or whatever, the Grady Hendrix book, one of the more recent ones. That's a little bit deeper dive. I mean, that's also kind of a campier story, but it's this idea of like, I bet that would drive a person crazy. And it's like, that's as far as you go. There's no nuance to it. There's no sort of depth of like, what does that actually mean?
Because this is a very wobbly script. Like there's
yes,
a million
because
things.
It was hacked to pieces a million times between like 2005 and 2018.
I believe that this was entirely Danny McBride's story.
And I feel like that might that's the other. I'm like, these are not horror guys, and this is a thing we run into all the time, where it's like, here's a bunch of people who just kind of want to make a movie, so they go with horror. Now this is not quite that, but this is a movie where it's like you might like horror, but it has like a hot topic horror feeling to me. It's like real basic.
It's what I think it is. Also, is I think a bit of it is the Blumhouse effect, where it's 100%. Just there's not a lot of room for the sort of for depth. It's just this is the Friday night at the movies crowd,
and that's what I mean. Is like you didn't go for a nuanced portrayal or an actual sort of analysis of something, nor did you go for the campier fun side. You tried to you swung for this 2018 2020 prestige horror bullshit, and you missed big time.
I don't get that.
They didn't miss on the fucking soundtrack.
Oh no. So let's do some notes here. Also as a a warning before we get rolling, we're going to talk about this movie from beginning to end. So spoilers to follow. Get hip, see the movie. It's he's shitting on it. I like it. Follow your heart. So the year was 2018. So some other movies. Also, that's really wild for us because we have not done anything nearly this recent. Like our bread and
do not get used to it.
Our bread and butter is really like the 1980s. And so
because I don't like shit like this. I don't think it's fun. I don't think it's interesting, and I don't usually think it's very good.
I think maybe that's the problem with.
Oh yeah, no, I went into this predisposed to disliking it. I understand that.
Because I did too, and I've done that a bunch on some real recent movies. Like I went in to Talk to Me expecting to hate that movie, and I came out the other side surprised like crazy. Like that movie had so much running against it.
But the difference is that Talk to Me is a original concept. This is an IP, and there was a million ways they could have gone wrong, and there was the fucking deck is stacked against them.
Well, no. What I mean to say is I'm just way more forgiving of I'm not as dismissive of modern horror as you are. But this is real interesting because we just have not done anything even remotely this recent. So other movies released that year were Mandy, which is a movie I love the shit out of.
I thought that was pretty great.
It's a fucking great movie. Also that year, the Suspiria remake. I only remember the ending.
It is a remake done right. I mean, it is slow, and I did not love it, but it is a reimagining that is very well done.
Yep. On the other hand, there was The Nun, which I tried to watch and I couldn't finish it, which does not often happen to me.
Yeah, because it has the story that is the length of the story is about that of a television program, half hour, but stretched out to 2 hours.
Yeah. Also, the Cloverfield Paradox came out that year. I have not seen that one. I just watched 10 Cloverfield Lane, which is pretty good. You could tell that
that's John Goodman.
Yeah, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead. It was another movie that they picked up and then shoehorned.
Yeah, here's the fucking problem with it. Is this could have been something else. Like I probably didn't want to see it because I was like, Cloverfield, that fucking Godzilla ripoff that wasn't very good. Yeah, why am I going to watch a sequel?
I stayed away from it for a really long time, and then I watched No One Will Save You, and I fucking hated every goddamn second of it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch a movie about an alien invasion that I like, or that I'm likely to enjoy more than this. And I watched that, and I don't know, maybe it's just but the bias of coming off No One Will Save You. But I liked it.
You know what they should have called it? They should have called it Some Lady Trapped in a Bunker with John Goodman. I would have watched that movie.
Would have watched it. I'd watch that, even if it was literally just some lady trapped in a bunker with John Goodman.
Just like the two of them just talking.
Yeah, because he seems like a nice guy. And lastly, Hereditary.
Boo! Talk about a movie I fucking hate.
As far as the whole Ari Aster thing goes, that one doesn't strike me as odious as some of his other movies, where that dude is just so fucking far up his ass that he will never be found. But yeah, 2018, not a bad year for horror. There's a couple of good ones. So cast and crew. The director of this movie is David Gordon Green, who prior to this movie was a comedy guy that routinely worked with Danny McBride on
And I'll tell you what, I like his comedy a lot.
I do too. Yeah.
Eastbound and Down, Vice Principals, fucking hilarious shows. Great stuff. Should have stuck to that.
Have you watched the Righteous Gemstones?
I have not.
Speaking of John Goodman, it's hilarious. Lots of penises. So like he mentioned, he worked on stuff like Eastbound and Down, Vice Principals, which is super fucking funny.
And incredibly dark.
Very dark, yeah. And somehow he ended up tied to the horror genre. Directed all 3 of the modern Halloweens.
Something tells me that Danny McBride had a lot to do with that.
Probably. He's riding high. And so now he ended up with the 2 Exorcist movies, which honestly don't look all that great to me. As mentioned, the writer is Danny McBride, who's also a well-known comedy guy and one of my favorites.
Might know him from his curly hair on the television.
Yep. It's still kind of wild to me that comedy creatives ended up at the helm of a horror movie production. I mean, I can't really think of another time that's happened.
This strikes me as someone was like, hey, we've got this. Like, what do you guys want to do? We've got a 3-picture deal with you. What do you want to do? And they were like, Halloween. They were like, okay, I guess. We were thinking something funny, but sure, it's up to you, I think.
Yeah. The original director on this was supposed to be Adam Wingard, but I think he got snatched up to do his Godzilla movie around the same time.
Which I might have to okay.
You know what? The sequel and the one after that, the one with King Kong, I thought were pretty great.
Yeah, I like those two.
Yeah.
And I am a big fan of a Gojira.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. I understand. So there's a bit of comedy in the lighter moments of this movie. For the most part, I don't feel like they work in the context of the film. The parts of the script that do work tell me that he's definitely a fan, because in spite of the hiccups, I think that particularly in the final third of the movie, like they do have an understanding of like what makes at least Halloween in particular work.
I think they're trying to do way too much fan service in this.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, there's direct, like, sort of like
Oh,
juxtapositions.
there's shot for shot ripoffs.
Yeah. I don't know if, I mean, that shit was deliberate. And I don't know if it was fan service so much as they were trying to make a point.
I actually think the scene you're thinking of and the one I'm kind of referencing, I think that scene is actually really cool.
The balcony?
Oh, no, I was thinking of the school.
The school scene.
Well, we'll get there.
All right.
So,
Yeah, we'll get
she's when she's sitting in the classroom.
Oh, yeah. So the cast, obviously, Oscar winner Jamie Lee Curtis returning to Laurie Strode for the first time since Halloween Resurrection in 2002. She seems to be having a really great time right now. Just having fun, winning major awards, playing Madame Leota, and I'm glad to see it, quite frankly. I absolutely fucking adore her.
I do too. She seems like someone who's kind of exhausting, though, as a person. like I think I love that you are out there in the world, Jamie Lee Curtis. I love what you do. I think you deserve all the accolades and all the praise, but I don't think I would want to hang out with you.
I don't know if I would want to hang out with her either, but she's got a really kind of like sunny personality, and it's one of those things that she seems quite genuine.
And she is married to comedy royalty.
Yes. James Jude Courtney and Nick Castle portray the Shape.
Yeah, something tells me Nick Castle's not doing all the tumbles and falls. And
No. He actually...
He's doing more of the standing.
He actually appears in one scene, and that's it. And that's the scene where she tries to shoot him through the window. One of the things that I read about this is in development, Green specifically told Courtney that he wanted the Shape to move like a cat. And given how he does move in this movie, I'd say mission accomplished.
You think it's cat? You think it's cat-like?
He's cat-like.
I don't know much about cats. But...
They're nimble and they're quiet.
I bet Nick Castle does not move like a cat.
No, and he was probably pleased
at 72 years old. He does not move like a cat.
not to have to do that. But
you know who my favorite Michael Myers is? Dick Warlock.
He's part 2.
Because what a fucking name.
Dick Warlock. Yeah, I agree.
Jesus. That's the coolest name ever.
Yep. Rounding out the cast is Judy Greer as Laurie's daughter Karen,
who I love. I think as every gay man is obligated to love Judy Greer, and so I do. But I will tell you, I cannot hear her voice without thinking of Cheryl Carroll from Archer. That's all I hear. You're not my boss.
No, when I see it, I can only think of her as Kitty, who George Bluth's receptionist in Arrested Development.
Say goodbye
to these, Michael. Yep. So here's some notes. John Carpenter was a producer on this movie who had some say in the production. Usually this would be just like a marketing move to get his name on the poster or something. That sort of thing carries weight with fans, allegedly. But he actually had a say in how the movie ended up. More importantly, however, the soundtrack is by him and his son, and it is a fucking killer.
Hey, don't leave out Daniel Davies.
That's right. Daniel Davies is also
it is the three of them, and holy shit, these guys. I think probably Daniel Davies more than his son he's sort of like reinvigorates him a little bit. Sort of the same way that Alan Howarth did.
That's what I was about to say is I think that for Carpenter, there are certain points in his career when he seems to kind of fall off, and they can be measured with the loss of a particular partner. Like the quality of his movies dip real hard when Deborah Hill leaves. And his scores
leaves
definitely
is
I know
vague.
Also, Alan Howarth kind of beating it is also like the point where his music kind of takes a nosedive as well. So
Well, he did do the Village of the Damned soundtrack. He did it with Dave Davies, and it's pretty fucking good.
Mm.
And
But,
it's the last. I think it's the last good thing he did, like alone.
yeah,
Until the three of them started recording together.
But he definitely seems to work best when he's got a partner. And this current iteration of his music is so good. Like those anthologies that he put out.
Oh man, his last 3 fucking records are awesome.
They're so good.
Unfortunately, the score they do for this is really, really good. The next 2 are not great.
It's just kind of iterating on a concept. So
but this one they really reimagined the whole score for it, and it is kicks ass.
It's so goddamn good. Like it really it kind of goes to show you how large a role in the original movie's success the music plays, because a lot of the music in this one really does kind of elevate it. Also, the soundtrack they did for Firestarter is
also really good.
Fucking murder. Like I hear that movie is shit, but
I haven't seen it.
but I have zero interest in it. But the soundtrack is just so good. This movie was released in 2018. Like I said, that's the 40th anniversary of the original movie. As of this recording, it's the 45th anniversary, and they're doing a whole Halloween thing in Pasadena right now, where the original was shot. I've been out there. I went to the Strode house, I went to the Myers house, and I went to the Hedge. And there's photos of it on our Instagram. Hey, check it out. It was surreal as hell to visit those spots because they look, with the exception of the Strode house, which looks a little different, like they're basically, it's like being.
Listen, you gotta give those people a lot of fucking credit for being good sports.
Imagine
if someone tried to cut that goddamn hedge down.
I know. The Myers house has a little note on it that says like no trespassing. So like I stepped up, got the picture real quick and left. The people who own the Strode house though are extremely nice. They leave a little basket out with like a little laminate that has all the little facts about the movie and the house and like props to take pictures with. And when we got there was another guy with his very young son, and when the woman who owns the place was like down on one knee, like talking to the boy who was like sitting there in like a Child's Play shirt. It was very cute. But yeah, they got to have a lot of people coming by.
I mean, it's like the Amityville house. Like you know, those people are like, Jesus Christ, I'm just trying to eat fucking breakfast.
Yeah,
get off my lawn.
Yeah, but the weird thing about South Pasadena is, it really does look like Anytown, USA. Like it's very weird because it's not like the sort of surrounding areas, which are very California.
Did they shoot this version there too?
No, this was shot in South Carolina.
Ugh.
I don't know much about South Carolina. I go to North Carolina quite often, and I hear that they're still making a lot of movies in Wilmington.
Dino De Laurentiis, thank you very much.
Yeah, but yeah, I think they did the last Scream movies there, except for the last one where they did all the shit in New York. But yeah. So in the same way that Halloween H2O revises the series continuity by throwing out all the sequels after part 2, this one goes back even further and assumes that no continuity exists beyond the first movie. Thank fucking
Which I'm going to say is actually a bit of a problem at one point.
What do you mean?
And it's in the trailer when he says, "Wait, wasn't it her brother or something?" But that's not established until the second one. So
that's the thing. That's them kind of like, going, "Hey, wink, wink," because she goes,
"Well, you can't have it both ways."
Because she says, "No, that's just something that people made up." Yeah. So the road to production for this movie is a story of utter failure. So after Rob Zombie's remake and sequel, he bowed out. He said, "I'm not doing this anymore." He didn't even want to make Halloween 2, but I think the plan was they were going to do it anyways. And he was like, fuck it, I may as well be the guy. So after that one, he was like, I'm finished. The Weinstein Company said, well, fuck you, we're going to do another one. But the plan was to basically reboot the whole thing because this was back when reboots were all the rage. But it floundered for years because nobody was able to settle on a script. And that's because many of the pitched premises had ridiculous gimmicks. Like one of them was a found footage movie. Another one was a 3D movie.
Which I would argue they've already done.
A 3D movie?
No, found footage.
Which one's that?
Resurrection.
Oh, yeah.
Where Tyra Banks gets killed with the coffee maker.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the espresso machine. That's the best part of that movie.
Yeah, very 2002. And also on the docket was a mockumentary. Fuck this stuff. The way that film rights work is that there's a central owner who holds the rights. In this case, it was Miramax. And then
Isn't Mustafa Akkad's grandson or son still owns it? The Akkad family still owns the rights to the movie.
Yeah. And then, but they license it through another, through like an agent. And so the licensing studio only has rights as long as they're producing movies. So you can't just buy an IP and then sit on it. Like, you have to do something with it within a certain amount of time. And in this case, they couldn't get their shit together. And so the option timed out and reverted to Miramax, who then immediately turned around and sold it to Blumhouse, who just got shit done.
But they're all still associated with it. So Universal is still associated
yes,
with it. Miramax is still associated with it.
Yeah. So it's like a co-production. It was like a Miramax co-production with Blumhouse. And Blumhouse obviously was probably the obvious the obvious winner here, because like they've really sort of established themselves as like the horror producer right now. So, they by this point they've done Insidious, Paranormal Activity, The Purge. Personally, I can't stand that stuff. But bringing Halloween under their umbrella had like a direct effect on other productions. Like, this was sort of like a case study for how like a soft reboot could be very successful, because this movie
it's a very AIP model where you take one movie that you know is going to make a fuckload of money, so then you can turn around and make shit for like $1 million and roll the dice on it.
Yeah. Because a direct result of this was we got that new Candyman movie, which I thought was pretty good, and then also, Scream fans have this to thank for the one like that Scream reboot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a Scream guy. Like, I understand people really like those movies. They're not for me, but I'm glad everybody's having a good time with them.
I like the first one.
Oh, I love the first one. Yeah. But yeah, like this movie, and also this movie was extremely successful. It set a bunch of fucking records.
For some reason, it is like critically successful for reasons that I do not think have much to do with the quality of the film. I think it is. I think it's very different. I think they were like, it's kind of like Hereditary. We need to pick a horror movie that we can champion. This one's going to be it. I don't think anyone really gives a shit about. Plus, that's on Rotten Tomatoes, which is not an accurate read of anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you're in the minority on this one.
I think it's a competently made movie.
It's very well.
Fucking
it's very
mess
well
of a story.
Yeah, it is. It is a bit. We'll
and if you're going to take something and try to reimagine what is by your definition a perfect movie, and then fuck it up so badly.
Yeah, you're really rolling the dice, specifically with a title like Halloween. But
yeah,
like I said,
fun fact about this movie though is after they made Resurrection, I think Jamie Lee Curtis was asked, like, would you ever make another one? And she was like, I would make another one, but the Akkads would have to cut me a very, very large check. Well, something tells me someone cut her a pretty large check.
Yep. So there have been dozens and dozens of Halloween scripts bought or commissioned, and most of them can be found in a pair of books called Taking Shape by a pair of authors named Dustin McNeil and Travis Mullins. I keep intending to buy those books because they sound really, really interesting.
But God damn it, if you're going to put out something like that, pay someone to make you a nice cover.
It's
because I find the covers of those, they are so off-putting that I'm like, I don't know. This looks self-published. Am I going to buy this?
Yeah. So there's a version of Halloween 4 that keeps Michael and Loomis dead, so they don't appear in the movie at all. But instead, it deals with the way that Haddonfield has dealt with the killing spree in the intervening years.
Make that movie.
It sounds really interesting, but apparently it's all of these kind of high-minded bits and pieces tacked onto a really fucking bland story. There's a version of Halloween 5 that sees Michael resurrected by a lightning strike, so he's at the bottom of the mine shaft, and it hits him like Jason in part 6. But whatever.
Let's be honest, that's about as good as the actual plot of the film.
But here's the thing, whatever like malevolent force occupied him is just gone because he's just like a body walking around. So now he's just like this gentle giant. And it's like Frankenstein, where like everybody's like kill the monster, but he's just like, huh? I just want to be helpful.
I mean, aren't those basically like the movie they made after this one? Halloween Kills?
Oh no! Halloween Kills picks up. You've seen it. It picks up exactly where the it's
like the same idea of like it's about mob mentality. It's like, oh Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And Michael,
call that one I Roll the Movie.
That one's still Michael like kills the shit out of some firefighters with their own equipment in a scene that's pretty awesome. I got to get those books because there's at least 40 sequels that were written but never produced. It sounds great. So let's get into it. So we open on Smith's Grove Rehabilitation Facility, and a pair of douchey podcast hosts who are unlike us in every single way. They are Ryan and Aaron. They meet with Dr. Sartain, who is in charge of Michael Myers at this hospital. And Michael is to be transferred to a different criminal psychiatric hospital. The podcasters
I love how they take podcasting seriously, like it's hard journalism.
Oh, dude, it's the one. So this is like the first point that I really I'm like, God, because like this is like,
hey, Serial, what you doing?
Yeah, like Serial and
NPR, what's happening?
Everything that kind of happened in the wake of like Making a Murderer. So like all of a sudden there's this kind of like thin blue line quality to like podcasting, and so it was like the hot happening thing, because this was like a couple of years after Serial, and like everybody just wouldn't shut up about that.
And as you know, I work in podcasting for a living, and it is absolutely nothing like this in any way at all.
Well,
starting with the fact that they're walking down the hall interviewing someone. Look, if you've ever interviewed someone for audio, you don't do it moving.
Yeah, but that's visually not terribly interesting. So they're gonna bullshit you. But yeah, they're there to interview Michael and Dr. Sartain. So Sartain takes them out to the yard in a scene that looks like something out of Last Year at Marienbad.
Yeah, this is the first problem I have with this movie, because this is real. Like, this is the end of the Sentinel level of like, did you think this was going to age well? This One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest bullshit is like offensive in a lot of ways.
Well, okay, so yes, it's extreme and it's ridiculous, but also I worked in a psychiatric hospital, and
it is not like that. I used to spend lots of time in the psychiatric hospital, not as a patient. I worked in a separate industry.
Yeah, let's definitely footnote that. It's nothing like that. But the psychotic patients would get agitated and they'd end up in the quiet room real fast. But
here you just chain them to the ground and give them an umbrella,
give them a ball and chain, and but yeah, and sometimes
this giant chessboard.
Sometimes they it's like something out of Alice in Wonderland. Like,
really, what is this scene?
They're gonna line the clients up and just like play human chess with them. But yeah.
They're sedated. You have to push them hard.
These ones are not sedated. So yeah, there's a bunch of people out of this is a humongous yard. They must have built this set, because
or it probably was like an abandoned prison yard or something.
It could have been, yeah, but like yeah.
I loved how they're like none of them have any shoes on, because obviously you can't give them shoes, but the one guy can have a fucking umbrella.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
Oh, the rusty metal? Sure, here, he can have that.
Definitely no potential for self-harm or harm of others with a fucking umbrella. But like it's a yard. Picture this. It's a yard. It's wide open. It's a sunny day. It's a weird like red and white checkerboard pattern. And there are maniacs chained to blocks on the ground. And among them is a very tall one. He's aging, and he has his back to the podcasters.
But he's respectably quiet.
He is biding his time. They don't call him the Shape for nothing. But also, a thing that I really appreciate about this movie is that they constantly keep him obscure. Like his appearance is never revealed. Not even at the end of the last movie. It's completely unimportant, and so they just
Because I don't think you can top, like, they have done it one time only. It wasn't successful.
Yeah.
You can't top it. You can't beat it.
There's no point in doing it either. Like, who?
Well, because it also defeats the purpose.
Are you talking about in Halloween 2?
No, the first one. She pushes the mask off of his face.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I was thinking.
And you see a much younger Nick Castle.
Yeah, in the second Rob Zombie movie, like his mask is coming apart. Yeah. They never, throughout the movie, they're going to do this where, like, occasionally he becomes like separated from the mask, and they just will sort of not show you his face.
Yeah, I said competently made. I think David Gordon Green's a good director.
Yeah. And also it's a really good looking movie. Like, aesthetically, it looks.
I think there's some cheesy moments, but I think overall, I think it's very well shot.
Yeah. But out here in the field, Aaron is trying to get Michael to respond to him, because the whole thing is like this movie. So what this movie assumes is, in spite of his disappearance at the end of Halloween, he is picked up and he is incarcerated. And so all of this time, he has not spoken a word. In 40 years, he has never said a word to anybody. So Aaron thinks that he's going to get him to speak.
Now, see, that's like more like actual podcasting. That's how it really is, everybody. But the best part is when what does he say to the guy's like, he kind of looks back at the doctor, and the doctor gives him it's all a very serious moment.
Yeah.
Everyone's just like, the doctor's like, yes, go closer. And he's like, looks back, and the doctor gives him the nod, and he says, I borrowed something from a friend at the Attorney General's office.
Yeah.
Bitch, that is not how anything works.
That motherfucker just lost his job because, he is handling crime scene evidence in the shape of Michael's mask.
Which, fun fact for everybody, after a case is completed, all that shit gets destroyed.
Not really.
Unless somebody wants it.
They do keep it, but I mean, that shit does get lost. I mean, that's kind of what's at the center of a lot of like true crime documentaries and podcasts these days is, oh shit, that evidence got misplaced. In this case, this fucking jabroni podcaster has it in his hand, and he's sort of shaking it at Michael, bellowing, say something, Michael. Like, come on, man. Like,
I feel like I expect this shit from Rob Zombie. It would have fit in a Rob Zombie movie. In this, it seems like this feels real. Like, it not even exploitation, like just a cheap, lazy gimmick.
The doctor says nothing this scene goes on a little too long, where he's just
there's
yelling,
a couple scenes in this movie that just drag on,
yelling at him, and then we cut to titles and that fucking awesome theme song. Yep, I love it. God damn, that's my ringtone.
Well, the jack-o'-lantern inflates itself.
Yeah, it starts out rotten and deflated, and it goes in reverse, so it's lit and working again. Because they always do that in the movies, like, like it's the close up on the lit candle or something like that. Halloween Kills has a really ridiculous title scene where like pumpkins emerge from pumpkins and stuff. It's a real weird idea. Personally, I love this. In the original script, in the first one, it was like a slow zoom on the mask. So somehow they ended up doing pumpkins instead.
It works.
Yeah. So we resume with Ryan and Aaron on their way. There's the podcasters on their way to their next interview to a compound owned by Laurie Strode.
By folk artist, an outsider, Laurie Strode. Why does she just have shit all over her fucking driveway? Like mannequins and like weird metal fabrications.
Oh yeah, man. Well, I mean, she's been making stuff and
what else are you gonna do?
And practicing her shooting. We learn that Laurie does not want to talk about it, but they offer her a few $1,000s and she lets them in.
Which, again, not a thing you do.
She's aloof. She's damaged. She's lived in fear her whole life. And then Aaron wants Laurie to meet with Michael and talk to them.
Yeah, in her defense, in Laurie Strode's defense, these two are fucking terrible interviewers. They're terrible at their jobs. They have clearly never taken any class on interviewing or ethics.
Oh, no,
they're just like, hey, bitch, why don't you just get in this fucking room with him? What's your problem?
They're tacky as hell. They're being set up as like the opening shots for the for what's to come. And you're not going to feel bad for when they finally get what's coming to them. So they split, and then we cut and we meet Laurie's daughter, Karen, her husband, Ray, who's
Artie, the strongest man in the world.
Yep. As soon as I saw him, that's all I thought. And then but at first I was like, wait a second, where have I seen him before? And then I went,
Toby
shit.
Huss is I told you earlier, he's a really underrated actor. I think he's a great actor.
He's very dynamic. And I look like after you mentioned him, I looked him up and I was like, oh my God, I've seen him in a lot. And I don't normally think of him because I just think of him as Artie, the strongest man in the world. But yep, this is to contrast what you just seen.
And this is a moment where the comedy does not work.
Yes, it's
because it doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So, but the thing is by contrast, they're shown to be, or they seem to be a perfectly functional house, but they don't associate with Laurie. And Allison wants her grandmother around, and she specifically asks if she's going to be around, and her mother lies to her, telling her like, oh yeah, I talked to her and she said no.
Yeah, but don't worry, because Artie breaks the tension by saying, I got peanut butter on my penis.
Yep.
What?
I don't know.
I don't really know what that means, but it does imply that his dick is out in the kitchen with his family.
Yeah.
So I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
I don't get it. If the first time I watched this, I thought, did I just hear that wrong? And then the second time I watched it and I realized, nope, that was the line.
It doesn't make any sense.
No. So on the way to school, we get
to some more shitty people.
Yeah, we get a little more exposition about what happened and how none of the sequels happened in this movie. That's basically the big takeaway here is if you're wondering where like Jamie Lloyd is, she's not in this movie. She was never born. That's a whole different thing. So at school, we learn that Allison has a boyfriend named Cameron, and Cameron has a friend named Oscar. Both of them.
I
both
thought
suck.
if they made this movie in the 80s, Oscar would be played by Clint Howard.
Yes, he would have.
And what I think is great is I think one of them asks about what Allison and her boyfriend, what their Halloween costume is going to be. And she says, Bonnie and Clyde. And I thought, I can't think of a more high school Halloween couple costume than Bonnie and fucking Clyde.
I know, right? It's a very weird.
Oh God. And their twist on it is even more high school.
It's very, that's the thing is it's Bonnie and Clyde with a twist. They keep they keep teasing you like there's going to be some like epic payoff.
Yeah. Instead of the one you absolutely see coming.
Yeah.
You know what they should have been? Gumby and Pokey.
I agree.
That would have been better.
And then they could have put a twist on that. And it wouldn't have mattered.
It would have been Eddie Murphy as Gumby.
I'm Gumby, damn it. So Laurie visits Allison at school while Karen is unaware.
Now, I think this shot is cool because it is a recreation of the shot from the original where Laurie is sitting in class and kind of daydreaming out the window.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So and I think this is a pretty good moment because it's done very well. It's subtle. And it's not as they don't shove it in your face like they do with the other ones.
Yeah. But, so what she does is she gives Allison the money that the podcasters gave her. And then we get a little bit more exposition about the why of Laurie's estrangement from the rest of her family. And she's just a maniac.
It's a lot of like, why can't you get over it? She's like, because he tried to kill me.
Yeah.
It's very Sarah Connor, but without any nuance.
Yeah.
It's like, you're just crazy now. That's all you are. That is your character. And it's like, wow, that is feminist.
It doesn't come across that way to me. I basically see them essentially lifting all of the Sarah Connor stuff. There is a little bit of that frantic
the next
hysteria.
Scene is very like when she's like loading the guns and cleaning the guns. And it's like, you just pulled this straight out of Terminator.
We cut to her shooting the shit out of targets in her backyard at the fortress that she lives in. And
in her fucking gauntlet in the backyard.
The way that this house sort of proves itself at the end is pretty cool. I love that shit.
Yeah, I got questions about the house a little bit later. Did they ever say why they're moving him?
No. No. But did I mention that? Because that is kind of a critical point here. Is the podcasters wanted to talk to him because he's being moved to a different facility where they're probably not going to have access to him at all
for ... reasons.
Yeah. But the reasons is just seems to be like he's been there forever. The state doesn't really see any value in.
So it's the first one. They're moving him to a prison, essentially.
Yeah, which is what Sartain kind of alludes to, is like the place that they're taking him to sucks.
More than the chessboard that they chain him to every day?
Probably.
With a bunch of like hopping lunatics around him?
When they do move him, I'm like, is he at the other place already? Because this kind of sucks.
Yeah. Real glass housey moment there.
Yeah.
Talking shit about him.
Yep. But so we're kind of the scene with Laurie kind of doing target practice and stuff is kind of to sort of illustrate where she's at. But then we cut to a montage of Michael being transferred to the new hospital while the podcasters listen to a pretty good impression of Loomis and his testimony about Michael. And while this is all happening, Sartain, like it's really, really intense. Like by contrast to what we saw earlier at Shady Grove, this place is like, it's dark and there's a lot of flashlights and people getting tased and.
Oh yeah, the montage of the voiceover is great because he's like, "I'll kill him myself if I have to."
Yes, and I'll only rest when I press my ear to his chest and hear no heartbeat.
And now that is great because the character of Loomis is unhinged from the beginning. So to make him seem even crazier is great.
Yep. Yeah. It's completely consistent with the character too. Like it's pretty great. So Sartain also accompanies Michael during the transfer. And Laurie
His name is Dr. Sartain.
Dr. Sartain.
What a villainous name.
It is a villainous name.
Well done.
And so Laurie also watches the bus leave the hospital from her car. And she's like pouring nips like just down her throat.
So this is another thing I have a little bit of an issue. So do you have seen H2O?
Yeah.
Now they give her a similar vibe in that one where H2O is essentially the same story. It is what is it like to be this kind of survivor? Even though she's functional, she's still pretty fucked up in that movie, and she's an alcoholic. But she's not like this raging drunk that they kind of portray her to be in this, where she like walks in and grabs the wine and starts chugging it.
Oh yeah. Zero
God
subtlety.
damn it.
No subtlety whatsoever. It's because the next scene is Allison and family with Cameron out to dinner, celebrating her honor society achievement. And this is where like Laurie shows up and she just like swoops into the scene and just like picks up all the booze and just chugs all of it.
And then it's another like, "Hey everybody, remember that I'm crazy?" And
yeah,
because through that whole thing. And she refers to him as the Shape, and I was like, "Oh, for fuck's sake!"
I love that though. That's so great. Also, Allison calls Laurie grandmother.
Yes, I did. I clocked that as well. Grandmother.
Yeah, calls her grandmother like several times. And again, but right before Laurie shows up, like Allison is like, "You talked to grandmother again." And she's like, and of course Karen is like, "Oh yeah. She said, she's too busy. She's got a thing. She can't come." And then in comes Laurie, like two-fisted drinking. So there's a juxtaposition here that they're going to play out throughout the rest of the movie, where Michael's obsession with Laurie has kind of turned into Laurie's obsession with Michael. And
maybe Laurie's obsession with Laurie a little bit too, because she spends the entire movie being like, "He's coming back for me." And it's like, really? He doesn't seem like he's coming back for you. He seems like he's coming back for whatever's in his fucking way.
Yeah. They do seem to hit that point. Like in spite of the fact that they go back before part 2,
in which he's not targeting anybody. He's just there. He's just
they're still trying
marauding
to
beast.
They're still trying to sort of play this idea that like all this time he's been sort of like waiting for his opportunity to kill Laurie because he's obsessed, but they fucking refuse to address
And that is why I say they're undermining everything about the original. They're undermining that entire idea. It's like, you're not committing to anything one way or another. You're just trying to walk this line and you're not doing it very well.
Yeah.
Like, you can't have it all ways. So they want to retcon this back to the original. Okay, fine. The original, he's just a fucking guy.
Yeah.
Like, he's a big dude, but he's just some dude. Now, if you're going to retcon it, then you've cut out all of the other bullshit that makes him this supernatural fucking monster like Jason Voorhees, which he very clearly is in this movie because he does shit that no normal person can do.
He gets shot several times and just shrugs it off. Yeah. I get
and that bothers me because it's like, you can't do both. You can't act like we're better than that and then, but we're going to cherry pick all the shit we want from the other ones because we need it for our fucking flimsy story.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, this is the thing that they definitely, they're trying not to do what part 2 did because they're deliberately writing it out of continuity, but they still feel like they've got to explain him.
Right. They're trying to reinvent a movie without remaking it, but they're not really doing either one.
I certainly would have written that a little bit differently. Like, there is definitely a way to put the two of them together without making it feel like destiny. But I guess we'll never see that movie.
Because that is the whole point of the original story, is that it's nobody. He's nothing. But you're just there in the wrong place at the wrong time.
But here's the thing. There's something about him that keeps us coming back. Something about him that elevates because he is, this story, or the original story, is functionally the same movie as Final Exam. But there's something about
Radish.
Oh, I know.
Without the best part of Final Exam.
Yeah, but like, something about Michael is way, way, way more compelling than the guy in that movie. And I don't know what it is. And I think it's just this intangible something that everybody is just obsessed with.
Because it is an insidious force. It's not he's just sort of there. It's that idea. It's the idea of sort of structural and virulent racism. Racism doesn't have a form necessarily. We like to think that it does, but it doesn't.
That was just, we only found out about that because of that Halloween podcast. Like, if I had never listened to that, I would never have understood the context of the movie.
But it's the idea of not, it's not evil. It's the idea of like menace and meanness that has no form. He is only this thing that he represents that thing.
Yeah.
We know that he represents something frightening. The guy in Final Exam is just a guy.
Yeah.
He is killing because, like, he has some reason. We don't ever really find out what it is. Michael Myers is just that's why he's the shape. He's a force.
It's a force. Yeah.
That's also why I think he is more compelling than the other franchise characters, because he's not fucking goofy.
That's the thing, is that's what I'm trying to say.
At a certain point, he looks goofy, but
yeah, those masks in the sequels are so terrible. But what I'm trying to say is there is something about him that like nobody can seem to put a finger on that keeps us coming back. And there is this whatever it is, this quality of him is what sort of, John Carpenter was finished with this movie when he made the first one. He said what he had to say, but everybody else who has since seen that,
it's because you can project so much onto him, because he is literally a blank thing. He wears a fucking, coveralls and a mask. You can put anything you want on him. He's not Freddy Krueger, who's a fucking yuckster. He's not Jason Voorhees, who's like a rotting giant.
Yeah.
Like, he's just this thing. You can project anything you want onto him. But because it's all so blank, there's something frightening or at least unsettling about it, no matter how silly the movie might be.
Yeah. But that's the point I'm trying to make, is there is an irresistible urge to fill in that blank. And I think
even Rob Zombie doesn't fuck it up as bad as you think he would.
He does it in a very Rob Zombie way. So anyways, back to the movie. Flashback to Karen's childhood, where basically Laurie...
Karen's kind of an asshole.
Karen, I understand Karen a little bit.
These skills you're learning are super useful.
She can fight. She can shoot. She can do all kinds of crazy shit.
You don't need them a lot, but when you need them...
improvised explosive devices. Like, she is a very talented child. The thing is when she turns 12, this Child Protective Services came in and relieved Lori of her daughter.
Which I don't think you can actually do.
Probably not.
Takes a lot to remove a child.
So we cut to father and son on the way out to go hunting, and
I fucking hate this scene for so many reasons. And it is the embodiment of all that is wrong with this movie.
Oh man! So
and I'm going to tell you why this is the whole vibe of this is like. This is not your father's Halloween movie. Like we're for the now, the here and now.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
And I hate to say it. I hate to use this word. This is the woke Halloween. And every time they try to do this shit, they just jam it in there. It makes no fucking sense. And then you brutally kill them both, which undermines the whole thing that you're trying to do with this fucking scene.
I think the conversation's really fucking funny because it doesn't go the way you think it's going to go. Because the kid's like, hey, it is a little weird that they're going hunting this early, or this late, but the kid's missing dance class. But his dad's just like, oh, so you're really into that? Like, you don't want to go hunting with your old man? And he's like, well, I'm just like, dancing's really kind of my thing right now. But then they come upon the hospital bus, which is stopped in the road. And there's crazy maniacs wandering around all over the place.
It's Bedlam.
Yeah,
literally.
And then the implication here is that Michael has escaped. And the father gets out first while the kid calls the cops. And then the kid gets out with a rifle looking for his dad. And he finds that the guards have all been brutalized. He goes up on the bus and he sees, like, he's got his gun, like, ready to go. And Sartain comes out and he goes, don't shoot. The kid shoots him.
I laughed out loud.
I did too. And
there were two moments in this movie where I laughed out loud, and it was this, and there was one where I audibly booed at the screen.
And so the kid goes back to his car, and this is where Michael is hiding, and he kills him, which I was surprised by, because it definitely like says, "Oh shit!" Like everybody's up for grabs. Because there's a scene a little later on where I was like, "Oh shit, is he gonna kill that baby?"
Oh, but that also is it's a little intentional. I don't like the dancing. It's kind of a fraught scene, the conversation they're having, and they make the same mistakes in the next one as well.
Yeah,
where there are certain kill scenes where it's like, you didn't need to do this. You did this on purpose and you didn't need to, and it's real shitty.
But Deputy Hawkins is a new character. He responds to the call to check out the bus crash. He finds everybody dead, seriously fucked up. The kid's father from the previous scene is seriously all jacked up. Like his head is all bent backwards and like a weird angle and stuff.
I was wondering if that was the father. It's not. It's lit kind of poorly.
It is. It's hard to tell, but I think that's supposed to be the kid's father. And then we find out that Sartain is still alive and he's concerned that Michael escaped. So the next day is Halloween, and the podcasters visit Judith Myers' gravesite. And Michael watches them from a distance. And of course, his face is obscured. And there's a long wind up to when the mayhem actually begins. And again, it's kind of like the first one where there's a bit of a period where the shape is like wandering around like in hospital garb. And so the same thing's kind of happening here.
Now, here's my question about that, though, because there is something, obviously I don't care for this movie, but there's something missing from it. That there's something like that they're trying to do that they're not hitting or something. And I wonder, is it there's too many people in this movie?
That's,
so in the original,
okay.
There's all this, you're saying there's this windup. Yeah, it's based on these three people. And
well, sure.
You get to like them, you get to love them. I don't know who any of the people are in this movie, and I think there's just too many of them.
I think, well, okay, I'm going to stop you and think that it's really unfair to compare this movie to that movie. Because
I don't think it is unfair since they're constantly referencing it. If they were like, no, this is a new thing, fine. But this is not a new thing. They keep calling back to it.
They keep calling back to it because they gotta there's so much pointing back to.
But I'm just wondering in general, is there just too many people?
There are way too many people
because I don't know who is who. I don't know anybody's names, and you don't spend enough time with any of them to get attached to anything.
The podcasters are my least favorite characters in the movie,
and I think you're supposed to not really like them.
No, but also functionally, because you spend not a shitload of time, but like way more time than you expect. You expect them in the way that they're featured in this like first third of the movie to be players. Like you're
Or
going
that
to,
they're going to be in it for at least a while.
yeah, but they're not. And then once they're gone, you never fucking think of them again.
And I feel like this, but that's how I feel like a lot of the characters in this are, is they're just sort of there and then they're gone. And I don't really know who they are or why they're there, but I would have preferred less people so you can actually get a sense of the other characters who you are going to be with and who you do care if they die.
Yeah, because that's the thing that makes the original so fucking effective is it's tight and it gives you exactly
or any
what
horror
you need.
movie in general. You have to spend enough time with them to at least know their names.
Sure.
Like I mean, don't know who any of these people are.
There's a lot of movies that do that, and that's it's a quality of a movie that's trying to do too much, I think, because there's a couple of other characters who are like in this and they're featured in a way that makes you think you're going to be getting more of them, like the sheriff. He appears a couple of times and you kind of get the feeling that get used to seeing this guy, and then he kind of vanishes.
And I feel like that's they're trying to do both things. They're like, oh, you like this person? Nope, now they're gone. It's like, oh, okay, but I didn't get to like them. You didn't give me enough time with any of them because you're constantly dropping all these new people in for no particular reason other than to be sort of chum for the waters.
Yeah. But now we go back, we cut to the hospital where Sartain is being like tended to. And Hawkins informs the sheriff that Michael Myers was on that bus and is missing on Halloween. So
and then he tells the story. Did they reshoot the stabbing scene? Of the sister?
I think they did. That's not original footage.
Because I don't remember in the original one. You don't actually see any nudity,
right?
Or in that, not in that scene anyway.
Yeah. No, I think that was shot brand new for this one. But so now we jump back to Ryan and Aaron, the podcasters, who I had to look their names up. They stopped for gas at a nasty gas station.
And where they make everyone look like white trash.
This is like, hey, do you like that Rob Zombie movie?
Yeah.
Yep, you're gonna meet.
But I'll tell you what I really did like is when he's standing, he's pumping the gas, and he looks over, and there's the woman looking at him from the van, and he sort of like flashes her a peace sign, or whatever the kids do these days. And the look that she gives him, I really loved, because I was like, that is the exact look I would give him if someone did that. Like, what?
Yeah. But so she heads off to the bathroom while Michael beats the mechanic to death. And then while she's in there, he walks in on her because now he's in the coveralls. So he's almost got his costume complete. And then he menaces her by reaching over the stall door and dropping the mechanic's teeth in front of her.
Listen, I got a question for you. What would you do if you're taking a shit in a public bathroom and someone sticks their hand over the stall door and drops a handful of teeth on the floor?
I would resign to my fate. That's what I would do.
I mean, what else can you do?
Yeah. I got to tell you, this is one of the scenes that I definitely had a problem with because I don't like sadistic Michael.
No, and that is exactly what this movie is. The violence in this movie is mean and unnecessary.
I don't think this is one of the only scenes where I feel like it's uncharacteristic because the killer, he just kills. There's no pleasure in it. He just does it to do it.
Right.
He's a destroyer.
This is Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Right. And so like this
brutality.
Scene, though there is something like it's a great scene in a different movie. Like this would have been great in Terrifier, but like it's not the kind of killer that The Shape is,
Though I do like the moment where he drops the teeth.
I don't like
what follows, but I do like that moment. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then anyways, then he attacks her. He bursts in and tries to drag her out. And this
is all because he wants the mask.
He wants the mask. He could have just taken the fucking mask. Yeah. But also he's got to kill because he's got to kill because he's already killed the attendant. He killed the mechanic. He's just gonna fucking kill everybody.
Maybe these two suck.
And they suck. And you really like. I don't take the pleasure in their deaths, but I'm relieved that we don't have to deal with them anymore. But yeah, he attacks her, and then Aaron comes in with a tire iron, and he attacks Michael. He hits Michael with it real hard, but of course, it's The Shape, and so it just bounces off of him, and he gets it, and he smashes his head in like through like into the wall a bunch of times, and then he strangles Ryan, the girl. And then, you know, that's that. He goes out to their car and he recovers the mask. So it's a cool scene the way he does it too. Like it's like sort of shot through the car window.
Mm-hmm.
You know, aesthetically very cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of shots in this movie I think are great.
Yeah. But back at Laurie's, she's making breakfast while the news is on. She finds out about the bus crash and immediately readies herself for the inevitable. And we find out here that she has a panic room hidden under the kitchen.
Which I don't know if I'd call it a panic room exactly.
Well, no. We're supposed to think it's a panic room, but we're going to find out it's a trap. Yeah. And so back at Karen's, Laurie surprises Karen and Ray with a gun.
I kind of love this moment.
She's like, bang, I got you. You're dead. And so her whole thing is she's going to get him to safety, and she's really, really wound up and manic. But now this is where we learn that she's not just going to hunker down. Her whole intention is to find him and kill him.
Which is always sort of unclear, kind of until the end where they kind of crystallize that.
Yeah.
But again, it's that idea of like, oh, this is the tragic victim. And it's like, well, now you're making her look like some weird vigilante. Which is it?
Yep. I would have, like, in my vision for this movie, like, this would have just been Michael going back to Haddonfield to sort of do what he does and her just reacting to that. So I would have definitely.
So basically the Texas Chainsaw reboot.
I have not seen that.
I don't know. I hated it the first time. I warmed up to it the second time.
The new one, right?
The Netflix one, yeah.
Yeah, I've not seen it. I'll have to watch it.
It's basically that premise where it's like Sally Hardesty is like sort of like, if I have to, okay.
Gotcha. So it's not Dennis Hopper as her uncle?
No, but that would have been awesome.
So at the gas station, which is now a crime scene, Hawkins informs us that he was there on the night in Haddonfield in 1978. That's going to sort of bear out a little bit. Ish. It's more, I think they definitely flub it here, but it comes back into play in Halloween Kills.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff in
or Halloween Ends.
It feels like to me, it's like you had other ideas for these things that probably got cut, and you just didn't really fix up the earlier parts.
There's also a lot of deleted scenes on the disc.
Yeah, it has that feel to it. It's like this feels like it was supposed to go somewhere, and it kind of inevitably doesn't.
Yeah, and some of the deleted scenes, like I can tell why they left them out because they're fucking stupid. But some of them also are like critical plots, or rather not critical, but they're like plot details that would have sort of helped some of these other moments out a little bit.
Well, here's what you do: you make a television version, and you just cut those new scenes right back in. And that's what they did with the original one.
Yeah. But so now the Shape has found his way to town on Halloween night and thus begins his killing spree.
Now let's talk about how you're going to retcon back to the first one and then lift a scene straight from the second one.
The hammer?
Yes.
Yeah.
That whole scene.
Yeah.
Except they take it much further, unnecessarily far.
So the Shape, also we get a cameo from the Three Masks in Halloween 3.
Mm-hmm. Again, it's like, we get it.
Yep.
Seen the movies.
I love it. The first victim gets smashed in with a hammer. And Michael kind of helps himself to his weapon of choice in her kitchen, a butcher's knife. The way that this scene is shot is, I don't think it's a one shot, but it feels that way. At least in my memory, it is kind of like
I don't think it is.
I don't think it is, but it very much feels that way. The next one, however, is very clever in the way that they actually they did it, and that's definitely a one shot. So next door, he finds another woman in her house alone. And he watches her.
This is another one where I'm like, what is he do? Why is he just randomly killing these people?
Because that's
his
what
whole
he does.
thing was like, he's coming back for her. But that's the thing. Is that what he does, or is he coming back for her? Make up your fucking mind.
Yeah. He's just a destroyer. Sartain describes him like a shark a little later on.
Sorry, every time you say Sartain, I think, God, that's a good name.
That's a great name. It sounds like a G.I. Joe character. So
but Loomis describes him as a shark in the original.
Yes. Yeah.
But we can't compare it to the original, even though they're constantly doing that.
the camera stays static on the window. And that's when he like does the thing where kind of crouches down and you see his reflection in the window, which is really spooky. And
what
then
I like about this, that shot feels very 80s to me.
Yeah.
Like it feels like it's borderline exploitation where it's like, this is as much as you're going to get away with per the MPAA.
Yeah.
And so it's like going as far as they can. Like they could have taken it much further, but I really like that shot. I don't think it's necessary, but I like it.
So it's the camera stays put and he kind of gets up and walks around the side. And the thing is from where we are, we can see the side windows and you see him just kind of like nimbly make his way across, the side. And then he comes in behind the woman and he stabs her.
Cat.
Yeah. Moving like a cat. And at the high school Halloween dance now, Allison gets a call from her friend Vicky, who's babysitting Julian, a kid who is hilarious.
No, I love this kid. He's the fucking star of the movie.
Yeah, and they're watching Repo Man, completely unaware that being a babysitter on Halloween in Haddonfield is dangerous as hell.
And I love the point where he asked her, "How much do you get paid?"
Yep. It's something about, I'm just over here clipping my nasty toenails.
Yep. He's great.
He's the best. I would watch an entire movie of Julian. So back at school, Allison catches Cameron kissing another girl.
Fucking Cameron. Here's the thing. One of the most disappointing things about this movie. Cameron's obviously a piece of shit, and you totally expect him to get murdered, and he doesn't.
I know. So this reminds me of, when I was watching this reminded me of Prom Night, because there's that scene where the girl, and I can't remember the character's name. They're in like the locker room, and he's like trying to have sex with her, and she's like almost.
Oh, he's
there.
the lame one from the beginning.
Yeah, and he walks and just lives. We never see him again. He absolutely should have gotten fucking killed. But Slick, the caring lover with a sweet van, he gets killed. What is up with that?
He is the best.
Yep. But so what ends up happening is they argue, and the phone starts to ring, and it's her family that wants her to come home because Michael Myers is out trying to kill everybody. And so he grabs the phone and he throws the phone in a punch bowl of what looks like pudding.
Yeah, I think, is it supposed to be like Jell-O or something?
I have no idea. It looks really gross. But yeah, so now she misses a very important call about her family and the status of Michael Myers. Laurie, meanwhile, is cruising around Haddonfield looking for the Shape, who is now at Julian's house. Now, Vicky's boyfriend shows up, and he is...
Now, Vicky's boyfriend, I was surprised because I thought he comes across as the queer friend.
I was going to say, he's way nicer than Cameron. Also, is he really a farmer? Because he's like, hey, here's a pumpkin right from my patch.
And it's expertly carved. No
yeah.
less.
And so
I just assume farmers know how to carve pumpkins.
Probably, yeah. I'm going to tell you what, for somebody who's such a Halloween enthusiast, Halloween, the holiday. I fucking hate carving pumpkins.
Well, it's very messy, and it is a lot harder than you'd expect.
Yes, that is exactly it. And my fucking children always want something elaborate that ends up giving me carpal tunnel syndrome. So
and you buy those kits, and they come with little tiny saws, and it's like, do you know what a pumpkin is?
Yeah, no, it is a hard shell that is just, these tools are not going to.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they're giving you like the tiniest wood carving tools.
Yeah, I know. So the two of them are making out, and then Julian, panicked, informs them that there's someone in the house. And Vicky looks and finds nothing. And then she convinces Julian to go back to bed. Rookie move. And then she goes to close his closet.
Yeah, she does that shitty joke where she's like pretending there is someone there. And it's like, bitch, he is obviously upset. Why are you doing that?
They got a thing though. Like they've really got a rapport.
Yes.
Yeah, like they're tight bros. And for some reason now, like they have separated the boyfriend. Like he's out in the garage, like
because for some reason he's like, I'm just gonna go get on this person's motorcycle and then turn it on.
But he's also high on the marijuana, so maybe he just his judgment was lapsed. But meanwhile, yeah, we go back and she's trying to close the closet door, and the closet door won't close, so she opens it to see what the problem is, and it turns out that the Shape is the problem because he's in there. He stabs the shit out of her while Julian flees.
That was kind of boring. This scene is just like, did you have done something better?
It's tense. It's they're winding you up. They're giving you a little second act action. Her
I mean,
boyfriend.
if you want to see real good closet kills, Black Christmas.
Yeah. Her boyfriend grabs an even bigger butcher knife.
Oh, right, because he comes running up the hall. Because my note says, "'Twas the slippery floor that did Vicky in."
Right, like you don't even see anything. It's just that she's wearing socks. Man, that floor just goes right out.
And we've all had that moment.
Yep. It's like whenever you go to the hospital, they give you those no-slip socks, obviously for a reason, in case Michael Myers is chasing you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But yeah, he goes up to help her, and that is the last we see of him for a little while. So after a time, Hawkins drives up on the crime scene, and Laurie arrives not long after in her own car, just freaking out on everybody in the street.
Yeah, she's a menace.
Yeah. And inside, Hawkins finds Vicky's body arranged a bit like Bob's from the original, with a sheet over her like a ghost. And then outside, down on the street, Laurie sees the shape and like in the window. And this is the scene that where Nick is playing the shape. He's the one.
They should have got Dick Warlock to do it.
Yeah, I wonder what old Dick's
that guy's too busy being awesome. He's at Halloween 45.
Yeah. Unsurprisingly.
Oh, there's like real fucking fringe characters there.
Yeah.
There's like literally just get everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. They're all charging $150 for an autograph. Yep. So what she does is she takes a shot at him. She shoots him through the window, but it turns out that she shot his reflection in a mirror.
I hated this scene.
I love this scene. It's fucking great. Because like he doesn't, again, that shit like a cat, like he just exits the scene. Like he's in no hurry, even though there's an armed police officer in the next room. And so he gets out as Hawkins sort of chases him down the steps. Michael gets outside and Laurie catches him and cracks another shot off and legitimately shoots him in the shoulder. Mm-hmm. And he just keeps going. Mm-hmm. So now Sartain shows up at the crime scene with the rest of the police. He turns out that the sheriff got him out of the hospital to help them because, nobody knows him better than Dr. Sartain. Laurie dubs him the new Loomis. And so this is where Sartain describes him as like a shark. He only knows how to keep moving and keep killing. And so meanwhile, Allison has left.
Which I feel is an unfair characterization because he has literally been sitting quiet for the last 40 years. So he does know how to stop and do anything or nothing.
Yeah.
He's not at all like a shark. They can't do that.
Nope. So yeah, but we're going to find out, like Dr. Sartain, he's not a very good doctor.
No.
Meanwhile, Allison has left the party with Cameron's friend Oscar, who walks her home. Yeah, I know. And then Hawkins is now out riding around with Sartain. And we get a look into Sartain's fascination with Michael, and he wants to know what Michael gets out of murder.
Now, this also feels a little, what is it, Cult of Thorn? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
That bullshit from the later ones?
Yeah. I don't know, not exactly. It's more.
It has that vibe, though.
It's
like I'm so obsessed with you.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying with that. But yeah, like because that's the whole thing is we're starting to get to know Sartain a little bit better, and like something's off about him. So now Laurie and the police grab Karen and Ray, while Oscar and Allison cut through some dude's yard that is surrounded by a horror movie wrought iron fence. The kind that people inevitably end up getting hung up on.
Now, if you haven't seen the movie, it's important to know that Oscar is the friend. He's a little bit chubby. He's exceedingly nerdy. So I think you can see where this is going to go.
They must have. Who's the fucking guy from Jonah Hill? I get the feeling that they wrote this character with Jonah Hill in mind.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah. So this whole time, like he's being nice to her, he's complimenting her, and then like when we finally get back to this scene, he kisses her while they're in the backyard of this like some neighbor's house, and she's like, "Oh God, what the fuck?" Understandably,
this is another moment where I was like, "Oh, for fuck's sake! Like, why couldn't you just let the friend just be the friend? Like, why can't you imagine a world in which every guy is not trying to violate her in some way.
I know. That's I had
Now,
the same.
I feel like maybe at this point, maybe that's just naive on my part, because it seems like every time I turn around, someone you used to respect is a rapist.
Yeah.
But I just like from the moment that scene starts, I was like, oh, I see.
I know.
The nerd is going to misread the signals, and because of that, he has to die.
I don't know if he has to die because of it. He just was in the wrong place. Because what ends up happening is she is understandably like, what the fuck? Charges off, climbs over the fence on her own, and he sits there and he catches a glimpse of a shadow, a shape, you might say.
But he does something similar to what the boyfriend does at the party. And this is that idea of that exhausting conversation about gaslighting we've all had to have for the last God knows how many years, where it's like he's trying to explain it away, like I'm drunk, or didn't, or this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, again, it's like, okay, not every interaction that a young woman has involves this, but it does sort of have that vibe of like, well, her boyfriend did it, now this guy's doing it too.
Yeah. But he thinks that the shape in the darkness is this neighbor. He couldn't be more wrong, because the shape attacks him. He stabs him while he's trying to climb over the fence, and then he hangs him up on the spikes of the fence by his jaw. Great effect.
Mm-hmm.
Now Allison goes back to see what the commotion was all about, and comes face to face with the shape, and it has that fucking awesome music sting that happens because she at first just sees Oscar's body on the fence, and then he kind of like emerges from the gloom, and it's like that wah kind of thing that Carpenter's always doing.
Yeah, the music is a character unto itself, and it is fucking brilliant.
Yeah. And so she runs until she's rescued by Hawkins and Sartain, who is adamant that Michael must not be harmed. And so now we cut back to Laurie's basement. She arms Karen and Ray with rifles. And then back out on the streets, Hawkins spots the shape walking around, and he rams him with his car. Kind of like in part 2, where the van runs the guy over, but it's just some dude in the mask.
Yeah, it's Ben Tramer.
Yep. But it's
he's not just some dude.
No, this is actually Michael. And so now with Michael laid out, Hawkins gets out, and his intention is he's going to shoot him in the face. And so just, to make sure he's dead. I know that I wish that more horror movie people did that. But Sartain stops him, and he announces, what he does is he goes over and he checks him, and he announces that Michael is dead. But then he's got this. He's also throughout
the most elaborate weapon I've ever seen.
I know. We've been seeing it, and we've been led to believe that it's a pen, but it's actually this like
mini harpoon.
Yeah. What do I got? I got a little thing. Oh, I call it a weird stabby pen thing in my notes, because
it looks like a weird tiny whale harpoon.
Yeah, it does. It's like a scalpel on a
hook.
Yeah,
it has like a hooked end.
Yep. And so he announces. Okay, going back. So Michael laid up. Hawkins's fate is unknown. Sartain takes the mask and wears it, and then he goes back to the car for Allison.
But for why? Well, it's like, is he just trying it on?
Yeah, he wants to
because then he puts him, he like drags the body over and stuffs Michael into the car and then just tosses it. It's like, so you just want to put it on for like a second?
Yeah, he wanted to know what it feels like to be Michael.
I think it would have been better if he just drove the car with it on.
Yeah, so he's got Michael in the back with the mask and Allison, and that he explains that he intends to bring him to Laurie. So now near Laurie's house, Allison fakes Sartain into stopping the car. Like she says that when in that brief moment that she faced him, that Michael spoke to her. He didn't. But Sartain wants to know what he said. And then while this is all happening, Michael comes back to life, basically. He puts the mask on, and then he kicks the fucking fence in from behind, because it's one of those police cars with the mesh.
We finally get a satisfying kill.
And yeah, and so Sartain is beat the fuck. He gets out, and he takes him, and then he stomps his fucking head into pieces. And it's another really great effect. Super gross. Yeah. But in one of the movie's most tedious fucking scenes, There are some cops stationed
What
outside
is
the
the
house.
point of this scene?
This scene is there is a much longer version of this scene in the.
You know what this feels like? Some Tarantino bullshit where it's like you think this is funny or clever or cute, and it's none of those things. It just feels like space filler.
It really is. The longer version is somehow even worse than the one. It's basically the two of them talking about a banh mi sandwich. But they see Hawkins's car, the car that just pulled up with Allison and Sartain and all that. And so they go up to investigate. And this is when the Shape takes the opportunity to kill the shit out of them and steal their car. And he uses it to lure Ray out of the house. And so with Ray distracted by the dead bodies of the cops, one of whom has been decapitated and his head is carved into the likeness of a pumpkin, which is also pretty cool.
Yeah, it was all right.
Lauren hears Lori rather, hears Ray's one gunshot and goes to see what the deal is. And she finds the Shape in her front yard, just sitting there and menacingly in a scene.
I think it would have been great if he actually was sitting.
It's just chilling.
Just like, Indian style on the ground.
Yep. He's just
like, what a night it has been.
Got shot, got stabbed, got hit by a car. So even
supervillains need to rest once in a while.
Yeah. So she loses sight of him. And then she's up against the door, and this is when he smashes through the windows that are adjacent to the door. If you've got a house that's like a fucking impenetrable fortress, those windows seem poorly advised.
I have a lot of problems with the house in general. My first question is, what does Laurie Strode do for a living? Because, first of all, she does not strike one as the kind who could hold down a full-time job. But also, these retrofits had to be expensive.
Oh yeah,
you can't just be putting in a fucking panic room in your basement.
She's had 40 years.
Sliding door.
She's had 40 years to do it, though.
I hope there was a big lawsuit after that first one.
On a long enough scale, you can build the panic fortress of your dreams.
But yeah, there's a lot of weak points in her house where it's like, if you were actually a survivalist or like a paranoid person, you wouldn't just build a room in your basement with one entrance and exit.
But that's the thing. It's not a panic room.
That's true.
Yeah. But to your point, that upstairs balcony door shouldn't have been wide open like it was.
Nope.
So yeah, so eventually she gets the better of it. Also, this is the point where Denise was like, he has smashed her face into the door like several times. Like, why isn't she bleeding? I'm like, well, he got shot, so maybe she's also like a superhero. But they struggle. She kind of fights him off and then blasts half his hand off with a shotgun.
And it doesn't seem to faze him much. Nor does it seem to bleed very much.
The Shape obviously is unfazed by this. Laurie retreats to the panic room. The Shape lets himself into the house. We can hear him walking around upstairs.
You guys, you just get in the fucking panic room and then close the thing. He'll never know you're down there.
I know. She kind of lets him know that they're down there. But for sure. But this is the point where this is where the movie is at its strongest. Like the last 30 minutes of this movie are tense and tight.
I will say I struggled to pay attention for the entire thing, but I finally was able to all right, the action's kind of picking up a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, Michael's whereabouts unknown, Laurie emerges into the house to find him. And so in a reversal of the classic closet scene from the first movie, Laurie, because now she's the hunter, she's looking for him. She thinks that Michael.
I thought it would have been real cute if he was in the closet.
I thought
just sitting again, sitting.
Yep. And she goes from room to room, and it's revealed that she has a cage system installed on the door of every room, and either to trap him or limit his options of where to go. Also, what is that dollhouse thing? Is that the Myers house?
That again feels, yes, I think so. But that is another one where it feels like this was supposed to go somewhere and it doesn't, because it's like a diorama or like a dollhouse version of the Myers house. But it's very specific. They focus on it very intentionally, but then they never come back to it.
Right. Well, they do in a sort of dramatic slow-mo on fire scene.
In a very TV, made for TV film kind of way.
That's like a made for TV Amityville movie.
Yep.
Spotting bloody handprints, she follows them upstairs into a room like something out of Maniac.
This is another callback moment.
Is it? To a room full of mannequins?
Not the mannequins. When she opens, where she finds Artie, the strongest man in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Jammed into the thing. That's another callback.
Yeah. Well, right. Because that's also kind of his thing, is the sort of tableau and the arranging of the bodies. While she's up there, he attacks, the shape attacks, and the two of them fight. And so in another callback, he like shoves her out the balcony window where she falls to the ground. And so now Allison has found her way to the house. And she calls out inside, which distracts him.
She's outside in the mannequin hellscape.
That's right. It's a real nightmare out there. While he's not
There is that moment where they're like spinning the camera around and she's like, it's like like each one is like a gargoyle that she keep focusing on and she screams. And it's like, it's just a mannequin.
Yep.
Like, I get it. It's weird, but
they're all like riddled with bullet holes and shit. Yeah, but while he's not looking, Laurie escapes. And so now he helps himself to a fire poker as a new weapon, and he discovers the panic room. And he literally, so what this is it's a hatch in the floor in their kitchen, which is like hidden by like a kitchen island. And so he comes in and literally just tears it off of its hinge. And Karen, seeing no option, takes a rifle bearing her own initials.
Not just any rifle.
The one from her childhood. And she readies herself, and it seems like she's frightened, but it's all a ruse to lure the shape into the opening. And she shoots him in the neck. And then Laurie beats the shit out of him with an iron skillet. And then
as plans go to lure him in, this is a pretty shitty plan because it takes some serious wrangling to get him down there.
They get him down there, and then they have to get out of there. And like, of course, this is like the big moment where I believe it's Karen who gets grabbed by him. And I think Allison like stabs him a bunch of times. And like finally he like lets go, and they pull these levers, and these fucking huge iron bar spikes like shoot across the opening, trapping him. And I fucking love the way that they all sort of like stare at each other for a moment, because he just stands there on the steps, like calmly looking at them.
Oh, I don't. This is another one of those moments where it's like, bitch, shoot him in the face.
I know, but they set him on fire. But they should have shot him in the face, because that would have made sure. Because if the next fucking movie has anything to say about it, that fire is not going to stop him.
If little Tommy Jarvis cannot be the only one who knows how to kill a supervillain.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do love that the way that they stop and he's just like fucking staring up at them. It's a very, very cool scene. And then, but anyways, the place, they like throw a bunch of dials and the place starts to fill with gas. And then Laurie, sets the place on fire while Michael calmly watches them. And then the entire house goes up in flame.
It sure does.
Yep. And they go outside and they flag down a passing truck, and they're rescued. And Michael, meanwhile, we get more shots of like the basement on fire and stuff, and Michael is nowhere to be seen. And then the whole house goes up. Roll credits. Yep. Obviously, I liked it more than you did.
Look, there are parts of it I thought were okay. I didn't hate it. It feels like they were trying to do too many things, and none of them really worked very well.
It's a bit messy,
and there's so much like referencing the other movie where it's like, Jesus Christ, did you want to make your own movie or not?
Yeah. Some of the things I'd read about it was like, we wanted to sort of dismiss all these other parts of the movies without upsetting the fans, and so maybe they felt like they needed to throw some fan service into it to be like, we know what we're doing, right? I don't mind it. I am also like unabashedly a fan of fan service,
I like it when it's done well. I feel like some of it was and some of it wasn't. Some of it was real in your face and this shit. Like, why don't, they may as well just had him do that fucking cocked head look at absolutely everything that
he does it a couple of times, doesn't he?
I know. It's exhausting.
Yeah. But that's it. That's David Gordon Green's 2018 Halloween.
And I hope we never talk about the other ones. Because those movies really suck.
I'm not nearly as kind to those as I am to this one. Like, I think that this one succeeded, like, terms of like budget like theatrically in terms of like the fans as well. People like this movie. Those sequels are a little ridiculous.
I wish they would have said, instead of saying, what movie do you want to make? And they say Halloween. I wish they had just said a horror movie. They could have made a great horror movie. They chose to do this, which I feel like is a losing game no matter what you do.
Yeah.
You should have just made a good fucking horror movie, because clearly they can. He's a good director. They're decent writers. I don't think this is a well-written movie, but they are capable writers.
Yeah.
Like, they have what it takes. You just chose the wrong thing.
A few more drafts of the script, I think it could have been tightened up, but also I think that there was some pressure to deliver something for the 40th anniversary, and also sort of not fall victim to the same sort of problem that like all the other sort of pitched scripts fell into. But,
I think there's also an element of taking themselves too seriously.
You think? Because there's a lot of really silly, stupid
I think there's some goofy
moments
shit, but I think that for the most part, they thought they were doing something that I don't think they really were doing.
Oh, yeah. I think in the same way that Rob Zombie wanted to make his own version of Halloween, like these guys definitely could not resist the fucking urge to do the same thing. Because it was probably like the way that like Kevin Smith talks about, like after Chasing Amy kind of broke and he went to like one of the major studios and they said, here's like 5 movies. Which of these ones do you want to do? And there was like a Halloween on the list. And they were like, we're doing fucking Halloween.
Oh, it would have been terrible.
But yeah. So we're doing Halloween again next week.
Yeah.
Yep.
We sure are. We're doing Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Rob Zombie's
And
Halloween.
I'll tell you what, as uncharitable as I was with this one, that's about how charitable I'm going to be with the next one.
I think we're going to be...
I think that movie is absolute horse shit, but God bless him for making it.
I think we're of a mind on that one. Like, we're probably going to see eye to eye on this one, because I have not... I saw that movie when it came out, and I have not gone back to that well.
Nope. Do I like anything Rob Zombie has ever done? Outside of White Zombie? No, I do not. I absolutely do not. I think he's not good at things, but I just love that he's out there making shit.
He's living the dream. He's doing basically what I would do if I wielded tremendous amounts of influence and money. Like,
I think he is actually a pretty good director. I just think he's not a good writer.
No. But yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I would do if somebody was like, hey, here's like limitless amounts of cash. What do you want to do with it? And I'd be like, well, I really want to make horror movies. And so they'd be like,
it's what we said about Ruben Galindo Jr. It's like, you may not be really great at this, but the fact that you love this so much comes through to the point that I now love what you're doing.
It's a weird relationship with his movies. I do actually, we'll get to it. I do actually, there is one of his movies that I do actually like a good deal.
You're talking about Lords of Salem?
Lords of Salem. We'll talk about it.
That's the closest he came.
Yeah. But yep. So yeah, we'll see you in 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
With Halloween.
Yep.